All right, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So, introductions. Feedback is important. Questions, comments, concerns, or even if you have some show ideas, feel free to reach me either through email, Substack, X, and of course, fill up those comments on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. And now, further ado, I am doing comedic shorts on YouTube. So, feel free to find my shorts. I'll do one. I'll do a step up, and I'll provide the link to my shorts in this episode. And share, tell your friends about them too, and like and share on YouTube. And feel free to give ratings on the podcast platforms that I'm about to list. So, briefly, just a few of them. Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Pandora, Amazon Music, just to name a few. All right, so this episode wraps up everything as far as Sacagawea in the month of November. And so now I'm going to speak on and give comments and analysis about my thoughts of night at the museum, and how Sacagawea, her part in that, and how the aspect of that, what are they actually talking about, what they're actually saying by having her character in that movie, in that series of movies. And also I'm going to give some fun facts about the movie, the night at the Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what I don't know. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about in my mind. Anyway, night at the museum. All right, here we go. All right, so if you hear washing in the background, forgive me, I'm washing right now. So I am going to do a bridge thoughts, more in detailed thoughts, because I think that's the best way as far as to link in the the details or aspects of night at the museum, as far as talking about Sacagawea in that sense. So, okay. All right, so when I initially saw Night in the Museum, I thought it's really funny, really, really great comedic timing, especially with the late, great Robin Williams. Bless God, rest his soul, bless his soul. He was a wonderful guy. Just unfortunate with his passing, and it's just unfortunate with the aspect of everything with how he went. But his legacy will live on and surpass, and the humanity that man had in his spirit is just it's just infinite. It's just unimaginable. And it's really even more, it's sad to say, it's even more special since he was in the entertainment field. And it's really sad, speaking and addressing that, how, for one, even more so now that it is trendy or popular to be pretty much an ass and to have that associated with you as a celebrity. But he wasn't about that, and it's just great. And it was wonderful also too with the social conscious of himself. He took roles that were socially conscious to where he lined, and that was really nice. And then, he was just a great man. And then even in the aspect, that too, with how a lot of times humor is really the best medicine. And so what am I talking about? For instance, when Christopher Reeves, when he was first in the hospital after his injury, and unfortunate that it paralyzed him, and then the complications, and he's no longer with us either. As soon as Robin Williams understood and knew where he was, he went out there and he was trying to lift up his spirit by telling those great jokes and everything. So, with that said, when his character in relations to the character, that is strange to say that when she's actually a real figure with Sacagawea, when herself, the actress who portrayed Sacagawea, the dynamic in between them, you can see how Robin Williams crafted his aspect of the details and of approaching interpersonal relationships. And then how delicate the balance is between a man and a woman. You could see that relating to itself in their characters. Okay, so going on to more details about the actress who plays Sacagawea. I mean, you take it for what it is. It's, entertainment, and even more so that it's comedy. But it's one of those things. It's really important, too, to take into that notion about the aspects of historical truths, historical accuracies. So what am I saying about this? So case in point, the curator, not curator, but I'm trying to think about her role. One of the historians there on staff at the museum, she said, correcting, which is a nice term to do, which is a nice thing to do, but yet and still you can be kind of hold on just a second. But at the same time, it can be kind of pompous when you don't, when you're just interjecting just to be interjecting. But that's another subject. So anyway, when she was correcting Ben Stiller's character, she said, he was saying it, how it's colloquially pronounced, but she said, no, Sacagawea, and then she went in with the aspect of emphasizing, she was the ultimate single mother or so, right? To a lesser extent, that's what she was talking about. Okay, so that's one aspect to look at it about Sacagawea, but that's the problem with what is the full picture about it. And so I never really tapped into that, So it's one of those things where, of course, it's good to take entertainment liberties with things, but in actuality, say things for what they are. Don't put an objective bias to it. So I think it's an objective bias, and this is my point of view about it. This is my reasons why about it. So I would encourage y'all to listen to Monday's episode when I went into details and the facts about Sacagawea and her importance to the aspects of the Lewis and Clark expedition, the Louisiana Purchase, and all that. How she mingled into that. Her place in that. And so, when you get into the details of everything, and you dig deeper and find deeper, and this is only, to me, personally, the surface level of understanding the depiction of Sacagawea. You find out that there needs to be more found out about her. Actually, was this historically accurate with who she actually was, or was it someone who, you get into that aspect of the tinfoil hat, was this just a compilation of a whole lot of different women at that time, and they just chose Sacagawea as the compilation of that? But besides that, what we have, the facts that the matter and the research from what I found and what we gathered is that the fact that she was a mom, but on the aspects of her marriage to Trisant de Partenir, it translates to the aspect of the time in which they were living, and the aspect of the beginnings of the American spirit. So, what am I saying about this? So, for the most part, from my point of view, and I like to know what you all think, you can either email me, of course, follow me on Substack X, and of course, fill up those comments on YouTube. So, that being, having an entrepreneur spirit, but also being the beginning and the beacon of being in the aspects in which we live in capitalism, that when your skill is sought after, and developing a skill that can be sustainable for your survival. And so that's why, and it's unfortunate about her circumstance in which it's depicted, but it's quite funny how that relates to Pocahontas' story. So that's a whole nother take too. But for the most part, she's being savvy enough and forethought enough to know that it's much more important to utilize your skill in order to have that to be a means of impact and sustainability for your family in the forefront of that, for the forefront of where you live in your country and development of your country. And so that's very, also in itself, I think, very patriotic. And going on into that, relating that into the film, that would have been a nice touch, because it would say this, sure, you can say that it's a cliche to say true grit, but it really is, okay? So what am I saying? So against how they want to depict it, that she was, which, interesting to know, keep digging, know the real truth about that. That, she wasn't captured and she was all of this. But you notice out of that circumstance, she was able to be a important figure in the aspects of the expansion of the new America and the expansion of the development of the new state in the states that were there, that were flourishing, make it more flourishable, and the aspects of that she was able to know how important it is to be grounded in the goals of what you need to do. And so that in itself is a prime example of the American spirit. Coming from humble beginnings, you essentially facing what adversity that is, whether it's subtle adversity, extreme adversity, what have you. Taking the foreground or taking the initiative to keep going, to keep the momentum going, and then reach progress out of it. And so that's something to really look at and to be remnant in the aspects and the lineage of and the legacies, you can say too. Well, yeah, you say that too, add that in too, with the aspect of Sacagawea. And so again, I'll touch on this again and then get into the details about interesting facts. Did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? Did you know that? Anyway, I'm being kitschy now. But my point is, I don't know, it just takes a nice touch when in the creative fields when they understand the aspect of these historical accuracies of something. Either something or someone. And of course you can make that debate or have that pessimistic debate where you say everything's BS and they only present information that they want to give you, and that could be questionable. Okay, sure. But for the most part, take facts for what they are when you find more beyond what you are told and what you have learned. And it's nourishment to me. It's fuel with that sparks curiosity in the mind to understand how things are. And that's really nice to the impact and the movement of knowledge. All right, with that said, here I go with the interesting facts about the movie or the series A Night at the Museum. All right, here we go. And of course, the source will be provided for you in this episode. All right, so the idea for the Night at the Museum came from the children's book of the same name by Milan Trink. The book inspired the film's concept of museum exhibits coming to life at night. Night at the Museum was a commercial success, grossing over $574 million worldwide. The film's success led to two sequels, Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, and Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb. The movie features an all-star cast, including Ben Stiller, Robin Williams, and Owen Wilson. These actors brought their comedic talent to the film, making it fun and entertaining. Night at the Museum received mixed reviews from critics. While some praised its humor and concept, others criticized the film for its predictable plot. The film's soundtrack was composed by Alan Silverstein. Silverstein's score added to the excitement and whimsy of the film's magical elements. Night at the Museum was primarily filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia. The film successfully created the interior of the American Museum of Natural Science, which is in this Canadian city. It's quite interesting when they do that for the aspect of from a financial point of view, physically sound places to film, and then, making it seem as if it's on American soil when it's really in other countries. That's quite interesting. So Night at the Museum features historical figures such as Theodore Roosevelt, played by Robin Williams. So Roosevelt served as a mentor and guide to the main character and to Larry DeLay throughout the film. And of course, the aspect of that going in itself with Sacagawea, the character of Sacagawea. I'm going to get into that about her. So Night at the Museum incorporates elements of fantasy and adventures to keep audience entertained. And so Night at the Museum pays homage to museums and the educational value they provide. The film highlights the importance of preserving history and showcasing it to the public. The success of Night at the Museum led to the creation of a theme attraction at the American Museum of Natural History. Visitors can experience a Night at the Museum-inspired exhibit where exhibits come to life throughout interactive displays. Night at the Museum showcases various exhibits from different cultures and time periods, from ancient Egyptians to medieval knights. The film offers a diverse and engaging mix of historical artifacts. The film featured lively and humorous interactions between the exhibits, creating memorable moments. Night at the Museum used visual effects to bring the magical aspects of the story to the scene. And it was a nice touch how they made that more, the thought process, how they were really delicate with using CG instead of a whole, making it look more practical, and that takes a lot of fine skill to do that. All right, with this said, I'm going to get into the aspects about the actress who played Sacagawea. I'll go into that. Okay, so here we go. And this is from Fandom. Take this with a grain of salt as you will. So this is tied to Wiki. So life and career. So it says her name is Mizu Peck. Peck was born in New York. It goes on to say her heritage. She's from New York and of Japanese, Irish, English, and Cherokee descent. So it goes on to say that her biggest role thus far was in 2006 movie Night in the Museum, where she played Sacagawea, a role she reprised in the sequel. And let me go into more detail, see if I find some more details. It says, goes on to say that because of course I don't want to go into, see what. So it says she has appeared in New York stage productions, television commercials, music videos, and that this is a person giving their aspects about her role. Says, but I admit I have never seen her prior to watching the Ben Stiller comedy Night Museum. Says Monsieur Peck is goes into the aspect of how she is how it's magical how she is depicting the America's second most famous Native American woman, only that to Pocahontas, has received more attention through the centuries. It goes on to say many Native Americans were disappointed to learn that this role was given to someone of different ethnic heritage, but then no one in the Italian community complained at the role of Octavius, where Augustus Caesar was given to a British actor, Stephen Coogan. In the end, the movie is what it is, Coogan and Caesar. They go on to talk about that. And they go on to say, in other words, this writer's argument is pretty weak. Here's a Native writer's rebuttal. It says, Tara Began presents a Native American perspective. Film is a powerful medium, and it goes on to say the disappointment in the Native American community is an honest reaction to the ongoing pattern of dismissal of our people by the dominant culture. Michelle Peck is a stunning woman who gave a fine performance by casting her. The masters of Hollywood continue to perpetuate. See, there go. And now, of course, I'm going to go give my feedback about this. Stereotypical Indian princess says this would have been an unacceptable stereotype in any of the other existing cultures represented in the film. And so, with this, this is the issue with why there's a lot of problems going on in our culture today. Nobody wants to take to the aspect that she does have Cherokee heritage and nobody wants to take the aspect that instead of race baiting and saying, that this role is enslaving our people and bullcrap like that, just why don't you take another route and see it and break it down to the aspect of historically what the historical accurateness of it and what kind of story does that tell? Do you want to be more driven by your emotions about things, or do you want to see things objectively and say that it's much better to present things from the historical point of view of it, being honest about it, but being presented in a way that's digestible? When you get into the, just know your audience and know what to say, what to not to say, for the protection of children and so forth, or people who, other than that, are people who are sensitive, more sensitive, but in a way that's understandable for the general public too, but at the same time, take liberties about that when you know who your audience is by getting in more when you want to talk about the graphic details of something historically, and just historical aspects of something. And that's far better than saying, "Oh, woe is me, my race, my sexuality, my this, my that." You're taking away from the power and the impact of knowledge of being rational and thoughts, and that's way better for the development of progress of people, of humanity, of whether it be your culture, your ethnicity, your sexuality, whatever. It's far better to look at it like that instead of all this, what I just said. All right, with that being said, this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. I, of course, like to know what you all think. So feel free to reach out to me, and I have all those links provided for you in this episode. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care out there. And, of course, happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.